the sound is good, can you please write a 10? If it's not so good, something between 1 and 10. Okay, so welcome everyone. Today we have a writing class within our own online IELTS preparation course. And just before we start, let me remind you of the 4 evaluation criteria in IELTS writing. There are 4. One of them is task achievement. It means if you want a high score in IELTS writing, you need to do all parts of the task. If it says write at least 250 words, it means you need to write at least 250 words. If it says express your opinion, do you agree or disagree, you should express your opinion. Discuss both views, and give your means you need to discuss both views. So basically that's it about all the aspects of the topic. Coherence and cohesion, your essay should be logical, and parts of the essay, parts of sentences should be connected with each other. Then lexical resource, if you want a 7 or an 8 in IELTS writing, for 7 for lexical resource, you need to be able to use less common lexical items, also including idioms, some idiomatic expressions. Okay, if you want an 8 in lexical resource, it means you need to use uncommon lexical items. Grammatical range and accuracy, you need to use a range of different grammar structures. Different grammatical structures, not only present simple, past simple, but also passive voice, comparatives, conditional sentences, perfective infinitives, inversions, and well, every piece of grammar that you know. So try to use various constructions and try to use them correctly. So the topic that we're going to deal with today is the following. With the rise in popularity of the internet, newspapers will soon become a thing of the past. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So this is what we're going to write about. Before we write this essay, so we're going to write it little by little. First, we're going to write the introduction together. You'll be able to copy it in the chat. And if there are mistakes, I will correct them. If there is anything else I can offer, I will tell you what you can do. I'll give you some feedback about how you can improve your IELTS score. Okay, before we do this, let's learn some vocabulary that you might find useful. You can also copy this into your, we'll say, some notebook or exercise book or a special file, because you will not be able to see them while you're writing the essay itself. Well, those who are members of our online course, they will receive the recording of this webinar and the presentation as well. Okay, so there is a synonym for a newspaper. So to avoid saying newspaper, 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 you can call it a broadsheet. A broadsheet is basically a newspaper. It's a kind of a newspaper, the most widespread type of a newspaper. Then, well, instead of like online companies, can be called digital media companies. And a synonym for newspaper companies would be print media. So there is digital and print media. Okay, so this scenario that newspapers will soon become a thing of the past can be called a once unimaginable scenario. So some time ago, let's say 50, 20, 60 years ago, people couldn't even imagine that newspapers would probably disappear. Okay, and they will have to declare bankruptcy. Some of the newspapers have already declared bankruptcy. They say they have no money, or they are frighteningly close to bankruptcy. Okay, in other words, they are weighed down by debt. It means they owe money to lots of organizations. And because of this lack of money, here's another expression that you can use. They have to lay off a quarter of the workforce. Maybe quarter, maybe you can use another amount of the workforce. They also have to do editorial downsizing. It means they need to, well, the editorial board, the people who work in the newspaper, they have to also to lay off and to downsize this. So their staff has been cut close to the bone. There's another idiom. And in some countries, such as Great Britain, we can witness the closure of newspaper after newspaper, right? That's another expression that could be used in your essay. Then there are even those companies that are highly leveraged media companies. It means they owe money from lots of, so they still do not have enough money and they have to retrench. That's another expression that might be used in this essay. And such a trend is now accelerating throughout the industry. It means that, well, all newspapers experience problems nowadays because of the internet, because internet has got so many advantages that newspapers, traditional newspapers, do not have. Okay, then traditional newspapers come under ferocious attack from, well, from online media, for example. Right, here are some ideas that can be used. You don't have to use them all. Basically, there should be one key idea for one main body paragraph. Here are just some examples of what you can do. So here's one idea. Newspapers are now published in online as well as in print. You can mention that. So newspapers will not disappear, but instead they will just change their form. There are so many different creative ways in which they can transform and still remain newspapers. We can read the news in any language from any country in the world, and that's an advantage of online media. It costs nothing to publish or access information on the internet, so basically a teenager can do that. While newspaper articles are written by professionals, you can develop this idea and say that, well, newspapers are more interesting to read than most online resources because they are written by professionals. And you can develop this idea and say something like, professionals produce better quality writing than amateur writers. Amateur means non-professional, right? Some people do not like reading from a screen. So still, they will probably prefer newspapers, especially the older generation. Some people want their news faster, okay? Not only do they want their news faster, but they also want them adapted to their taste. Okay, so people want their news adapted to their taste. Here's another idea that could be mentioned in your essay. Online, instantly updated content, often for free, has lured many readers from print, resulting in falling newspaper circulation. Newspaper circulation, this is the number of newspapers that is produced. And to lure away means to take away some proportion of readers. All right. Then, the newspaper industry is facing a mortal threat from the rise of the internet. Online media are gaining wide acceptance. This is probably true. The habit of buying a daily paper dwindled from one generation to the next. Okay? To dwindle is like to decrease, to drop, something like this. Okay, then you could say that newspapers have been plunged into a tailspin from which some may not recover. You don't have to repeat newspapers. It's obvious that they are newspapers. To plunge into a tailspin, that's an idiomatic expression. If you have, well, maybe 5 or 6 such idiomatic expressions, then your lexical resource will be good enough for even 9. Okay, others will emerge only as a shadow of their former selves. So some newspapers will disappear, while others will be just a shadow of what they are at present. Okay. So here's another idea. Newspapers recognize that they cannot compete with social networks in terms of aggregation, so they make sure to offer informed perspectives, strong arguments, and compelling entertainment that readers can't find anywhere else. Okay. Then a once unimaginable scenario has lately become grimly conceivable. So some time ago, we thought some people thought it would be impossible, but now it's the possibility is quite high. It has become grimly conceivable. You can also say print circulation has shrunk significantly. Shrink, shrunk. It means to decrease, right? Advertising revenue has cratered. That's another expression. Or newspapers have been hemorrhaging money trying to shrink themselves into survival by laying off hundreds of journalists and cutting content. Okay, so it means they have some financial losses. Then, well, probably another idea is it does not take clairvoyance. So you don't have to be a clairvoyant. You don't have to be able to see the future to imagine that this downward trajectory will put some newspapers out of business in the next 2 to 5 years, or you can say 5 to 10 years. One more, digital media are unlikely to pick up the slack. So pick up the slack is another idiomatic expression that you can use here if you wish in the essay. Then for digital media are also less focused on the nuts and bolts of low coverage, so they don't cover local events properly. They're mostly interested in worldwide events and things like that. Okay, so if there are any commentaries here, you can feel free to write them and concentrate on the topic. With the rise in popularity of the internet, newspapers will soon become a thing of the past. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Right? This is the essay we're going to write together. And basically, an IELTS essay normally consists of an introduction, then main body paragraph 1, main body paragraph 2, and a conclusion. So there are basically 4 parts to it. So first, let's. Well, here I would probably recommend if you do not agree completely, that's how you can make an introduction. I'll do how in a minute. Then, okay. So then, in main body paragraph 1, you can write about why newspapers are disappearing, and in the second slide, you can write about why some newspapers will survive or transform. So this is the possible structure of your essay that you can use. All right. So an essay consists of the introduction, main body paragraph 1, main body paragraph 2, and a conclusion. So let's start with the introduction. So introduction normally consists of 3 sentences, or there can be 2. One of them is a broad general statement. A broad general statement, this is like something that most people would agree with, like due to the increasing popularity of internet media, newspapers are disappearing, like this. Then you paraphrase the task. Basically, you've already paraphrased the task. And then you express your opinion. So while some people believe that newspapers will disappear completely, I tend to think that some of them will still remain and just transform, something like this. Okay, so here is my example. This first sentence is not necessary. If you're paraphrasing the task and this sentence is very general, you can just paraphrase the task, especially if your sentence is long, as in my example. So my second sentence is quite long. So here's my example. The newspaper industry seems to be facing a mortal threat from the rise of the internet. However, whereas some people believe that broadsheets have been plunged into a tailspin from which some may not recover, I would argue that while it does not take clairvoyance to imagine that this downward trajectory will put some newspapers out of business in the next 5 to 10 years, still digital media are unlikely to pick up the slack completely. Okay, so this is my variant. Now you have about, well, let's say 5 to 6 minutes to write your introduction, and please write it and put it in the chat after this. If I find any mistakes, I will correct them. If there are any other ways I can help you improve your writing, I will also tell you what I can offer. So 5 to 6 minutes. So for those who have just appeared, we are writing an essay on the topic, on the following topic. With the rise in popularity of the internet, newspapers will soon become a thing of the past. To what extent do you agree or disagree? And we're writing an introduction. So an example of an introduction is right here. So we still have about 4 minutes to complete our introduction and to write it in the chat. Okay, so Yelena has written, newspapers will disappear from our lives very soon. They will be completely replaced by the internet. This popular opinion is becoming more common every year, and it really has reasons. If you say reasons, you don't need to say because reasons is plural. The newspaper industry has big problems, but not everything is so uniquely and so terrible as it seems at first glance. Okay, not everything is so unique. You don't need to say uniquely because after the verb to be, you use an adjective and not an adverb. Okay, and you could also use something, some more complicated vocabulary because has big problems uh, very soon or is becoming more common every year, has reasons. These are examples of very simple vocabulary. It will be evaluated at band 6, for example. If this is enough for you, then it's fine. But if you need a higher band, you need to write something with something more complicated. For example, well, instead of very soon, you can say promptly. It's a less common vocabulary. Okay, then more common, you can say more widespread. It's a little bit less common vocabulary, example of vocabulary. Okay, has reasons. Okay, let it be has reasons. So, Alina, the newspaper companies face a risk from the internet. I wouldn't say the here, just newspaper companies in general. If you like in previous example, the newspaper industry is more or less concrete, but here newspaper companies in general face a risk from the internet. Some people claim that with everyone accessing the internet, the popularity of newspapers will soon be forgotten. Okay. However, in my opinion, it is unlikely that the internet will replace the newspapers. Okay, okay, wonderful. So if there are any other examples, I'll give you 1 more minute and then we'll move on to main body paragraph. Okay, Nathan, nowadays the internet has become more popular. Okay, as a result of this, print media have lost a huge number of readers. However, some people still believe that they will exist for a long time. Well, here it's not clear who are they. People will exist, or newspapers will exist. They should refer to the last word, so it should be people. Um, for a long time, while others disagree, arguing that broadsheets are already out of the trend. In my opinion, there is no doubt that digital media will become the main source of getting news. Okay, it's better to try to avoid get. Sorry, it's better to try to avoid get in academic essays because it's too spoken. Receiving news. Get in all its meanings is just colloquial. As for the rest, it's fine. Okay, so those who are finishing the introduction, you can also copy it in the chat. And little by little, moving to the main body paragraph. So, with the rise in popularity of the internet, newspapers will soon become a thing of the past. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Normally, you write your main body paragraph with a topic sentence, then you have to explain it with another sentence, and then you can give an example, and after this, make a mini conclusion. So basically, it consists of 4 parts. Sometimes you can first give an example, and then explain your topic sentence and the example that proves your topic sentence, the idea in the topic sentence. And then a mini conclusion. If you don't have enough time, but you can still write 250 words, mini conclusion is not always necessary. Okay, so here is my example. I first give a topic sentence with the main idea, then I explain it. Then instead of an example, I give a reason. So I'll just prove it. And then I give a mini conclusion. So here's my example. A once unimaginable scenario of the closure of newspaper after newspaper has lately become grimly conceivable. In fact, print media come under ferocious attack from their online rivals. One of the primary reasons why the habit of buying a daily paper dwindled from one generation to the next is probably that not only do people want to be informed about the current affairs faster, but they also want to have their news adapted to their taste. As a result, online media are gaining wide acceptance with print circulation shrinking significantly. Okay, so here's an example, and now you have 10 minutes to write the first main body paragraph. So you can follow this example and this structure, like topic sentence, expand, explain, example, and the mini conclusion. Okay, so Natalia, I will check your introduction in a second. Okay. So Natalia wrote, IT technologies have dramatically changed all spheres of our life, and mass media has not been an exception. Okay, instead of and, you can just say IT technologies have dramatically changed all spheres of our life, comma, mass media not being an exception. You make it a participle, and then it sounds more advanced. Your sentence is not a mistake, but it's too simple. So I can say IT technologies have dramatically changed all spheres of our life, comma, mass media not being an exception. Okay, it would not take you long to discover that yellow paper is not sold as intensively, because it's an adverb, intensively, as it used to be. No, as it used to, because it's not to be. Is not sold as it used to be. Okay, let it be passive, yes. As it used to be just a decade or two ago. Nevertheless, I would argue that newspapers will disappear completely, as they will just transform from paper into a digital one, or from paper form into a digital one. Okay, you can also replace nevertheless to nonetheless. It's just a little bit higher in style. Of course, there is no problem writing nevertheless. There is a very slight difference, but you can also change it. Okay, so that's fine. Right, now let's write our main body paragraph. You have 10 minutes for this. Okay, so Irene has written, apparently the prerogative of news reporting will be the exclusive prerogative of digital media. Ordinary newspapers, physically and logically, cannot compete with DM in the speed of information delivery. However, if we talk about digital newspapers, the chances are increased. However, the process still will be slower. Okay, maybe you can change will still be slower, but it's just a matter of taste. So, still will be slower than in social networks. Therefore, it seems obvious to me that the news function, in terms of new alerts, to aware people about latest events. Okay, maybe the latest events would be better than just latest events. Will belong only to the DM after some time, with a few unique exceptions. Another question is how soon it will happen. The death of newspapers began to be predicted. I think you skipped B. To be predicted a long time ago. You can just say long ago without time. It's also possible. Long before the internet. Okay, or you can say long before the internet era, since appearance of not even television but radio. Okay, so my recommendations are just mostly recommendations. So this is a very good piece of writing. Okay, so Alina has written, mass media has reached a high level of technology for the past decades. Nowadays, it gives us an ability to receive information much quicker than in print. Okay, or you can say significantly faster instead of much quicker because it's a bit spoken. Significantly faster will be more like written style. Subsequently, this is one of the reasons why many city dwellers choose to read online news. Okay, or you can say opt for online news. Just another idea. Of expressing just another way of expressing the same idea. It appears to the public access as soon as it is written by a journalist, so you don't need. In academic writing, you shouldn't use contractions. Do not need to wait. Don't, it's only for speaking. You should never write things like don't, isn't, aren't in academic writing. So do not. Do not need to wait for the next day. For example, my employee never reads broadsheets because the news is already 1 day old. All in all, in our fast lifestyle, it is vital to keep up with all the actions taking place at the moment. Okay, very nice. Okay, Nathan. Firstly, using the internet is a faster and more convenient way of gaining information compared to reading newspapers. Because a few years ago, people had to wait a long hour to take a daily broadsheet. Okay. At current time, or just currently, they can acquire latest news through their smartphones or laptops connected to the internet anywhere and at any time. For example, the spelling of example is not correct. For example, many developed countries offer free internet connection for citizens, not only in social services, but even in public transport. Okay, Nathan, if you put not only in the beginning of the sentence, you will be able to use an advanced grammar construction called inversion. And it will sound not only do many developed countries offer, not only do. So the word order after not only will be like in a question. And it will give you an opportunity to use inversion, which is an advanced grammar construction. It will be slightly better for your grammar range. Well, your sentence is correct, but you can still make it just more complex, a bit more complex. It probably will result in luring many readers away from print media. Okay? So let's wait for Natalia's variant, and then we'll move on to paragraph 2. Okay, so the main goal of a newspaper in any time has been to inform the audience, providing by new facts. No, providing new facts without by. Providing new facts about everyday life very rapidly. People's curiosity will always warm up journalists' willing, probably willingness. That's what you mean. Willingness to feed our minds. Okay, thus newspapers will exist as long as human beings, will live, and neither internet nor other science innovations can change people nature. Okay, and here you can say human nature, it would sound even better, but you already used human beings, so you can change people and human. At the end you can say human nature, it will sound even better. Okay, if anyone has any variants of paragraph 1, please feel free to write it in the chat box during our webinar. Now, main body paragraph 2. Again, there is a topic sentence, explain, expand, make an example, give an example, and make a mini conclusion. So here is my example of paragraph 2. So in this paragraph, I will explain that some of the newspapers will actually survive, or maybe they will modify the way they exist. So it sounds like this. Although online, instantly updated, often free content has lured many readers away from print, resulting in falling newspaper circulation, paper news editions make sure to offer informed perspectives, strong arguments, compelling entertainment, and local event descriptions that readers are unable to find elsewhere. For instance, digital news sites such as Google News are less focused on local affairs. Thus, while some newspapers will have to declare bankruptcy, others will probably move in lots of creative new directions. Okay, this is my example. You can also give your example of second main body paragraph. You have about 10 minutes for this. Okay, so Alina has written, although it seems that newspapers will still be high demanded with a certain category of public seniors, it is clear to us that the older generation is not always involved in the latest trends. Moreover, some of them, it should be a new sentence. Moreover, some of them have difficulties with the newest technology devices or simply vision issues. This is why the majority of seniors opt for purchasing real newspapers as it was in. Okay, let me scroll down just a second. As it was in their youth, spelling of there, newspapers will still be popular among a small group of people. Maybe you need some connector here. To sum up, or sorry, to conclude, or thus, as a result, newspapers will be popular among a small group or limited group of people. All right, Nathan. Secondly, buying newspaper. You can say buying a newspaper or buying newspapers. Buying newspapers is a waste of money when the web is available for everyone. It is not a surprise that the internet is provided for an affordable price or even without charge in many countries. For instance, people can buy the internet traffic enough for 6 months for price of a monthly newspaper subscription. For this reason, the number of proponents of printed broadsheets may continue to fall sharply, may continue. Here it's better to, an infinitive sounds more natural here. Okay, so if you still have any other examples of the second paragraph, please feel free to copy it in the chat. I will give you some commentaries. So, as for the conclusion, to conclude, although internet media are enjoying increasing popularity, I am convinced that printed newspapers will not universally join the ranks of clay tablets and gramophone records, but at least some of them will be able to adapt to the requirements of the modern world. Okay, so here is my whole essay example, my example of an essay on the topic. So, with the rise in popularity of the internet, newspapers will soon become a thing of the past. To what extent do you agree or disagree? The introduction. The newspaper industry seems to be facing a mortal threat from the rise of the internet. However, whereas some people believe that broadsheets have been plunged into a tailspin from which some may not recover, I would argue that while it does not take clairvoyance to imagine that this downward trajectory will put some newspapers out of business in the next 5 to 10 years, still digital media are unlikely to pick up the slack completely. A once unimaginable scenario of the closure of newspaper after newspaper has lately become grimly conceivable. In fact, print media come under ferocious attack from their online rivals. One of the primary reasons why the habit of buying a daily paper dwindled from one generation to the next is probably that not only do people want to be informed about the current affairs faster, but they also want to have their news adapted to their taste. As a result, online media are gaining wide acceptance, with print circulation shrinking significantly. Although online, instantly updated, often free content has lured many readers away from print, resulting in falling newspaper circulation, paper news editions make sure to offer informed perspectives, strong arguments, compelling entertainment, and local event descriptions that readers are unable to find elsewhere. For instance, digital news sites such as Google News are less focused on local affairs. Thus, while some newspapers will have to declare bankruptcy, others will probably move in lots of creative new directions. To conclude, while some newspapers will have to declare bankruptcy, others will probably move in lots of creative new directions. To conclude, although internet media are enjoying increasing popularity, I'm convinced that printed newspapers will not universally join the ranks of clay tablets and gramophone records, but at least some of them will be able to adapt to the requirements of the modern world. Okay, and here, here is Natalia's example. Moreover, mass media is not going to lose this game. The fact that newspapers do not ignore new trends of the modern world, it's surfing the internet with F, surfing the internet and transforming into a digital form, shows that the fight is not over yet. Okay, very good. It is not hard to find out that not only on paper, but also from screens of our devices can morning news, Women's Day, Bolivar Truth be found. Okay, right, this fine, there seem to be no mistakes here. Okay, so for those who are parts of our online course, then please send your full essays, full corrected essays to my email for checking on the same topic. For those who are just visitors today, who have visited just to see, who had a trial lesson, every Tuesday and Thursday we teach an online course at 8 p.m. Moscow time. The price is 5,600 rubles per month, and there are 8 classes of 90 minutes. You have your essay checked every week. In speaking, we practice real IELTS speaking questions that are practiced, that they ask you in the IELTS exam. So this is a closed speaking pool of questions, and we use exactly the questions that are used this season from January to April. Then you also receive more than 90 video lessons with native speaking IELTS experts, and each of you, if you register for our course, you will get a detailed step-by-step individual plan for guided self-study in addition to our classes. So the date will the course, you can start on January 24th, which is Saturday. If you wish to participate, please, you can write to this email, IELTSwebinar at mail.ru. Okay. Here's also the group, the k.com group, and the website. Okay, so thank you all for participation, and for those who okay, so once again, the email.